Hey guys, and thank you for joining me for my February budget setup. So what I decided to do was my budget videos were running a little bit long because I was just cramming everything into the one videos and into the check-ins. So instead I decided to kind of separate them out into different portions. That way the videos aren't as long, and then you can really only focus on the portions that you're interested in. Because if someone's interested in how I set up our budget, generally they might not be interested in the check-in portions or the sinking fund portions or etc. etc. So instead I decided to separate it out into portions so that the videos are shorter and easier to go through, and the videos are a little bit more focused on specific things. So this video is just my February budget setup. And so what I'm going to do with the budget setup is I'm going to fill out my budget tracker. So fill out all the bills that we have due, their dates, amounts, and all that. And then after that, I'm going to go through my calendar view and I'm going to input all of those payments and due dates and all that into that. So that's what I'm going to do for this video. So as far as the setup goes, I already laid out the foundation for this month. And I did that just to kind of, because not really just as a time saving technique, but also because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And so I guess this will make this video a little bit longer, but I think I will walk through and kind of show you guys what I have set up for this month. So the first page, because if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I use a graph Erin Condren notebook for my planner. So the layout, I have a little bit more flexibility to do what I want because I draw everything in by myself. So for the first page right here, I have my bill tracker, and this is what I'll do for this video. I'll write down all the bills we have, their due dates, and the amounts that are due. And then later on, I'll be able to go through and check them off as I go. So that'll be done in this video. The next portion of the planner is my monthly layout, and will also be covered during this video. I'll go through and I'll mark down all the due dates and for all the bills and debts and all that kind of stuff. I'll mark that in here using my dot pens. So as you can see, I already have them color coordinated for what they're going to be used for. And then throughout the month, this is the layout that I'll use, the pages that I'll use to mark all of our transactions. So when I'm doing check-ins and stuff, I can refer back to the calendar and see what we spent when, and then account for those numbers in our budget. The next things that I did is I did my bluff, which, like I mentioned at work, whenever we create reports or we go through presentations, we always have a bluff in the beginning, which is our bottom line up front, which breaks down basically what everything for the month is summed up. So like the summary of everything for the month in the beginning, kind of giving you a full picture. So here I always include like my income, our debt balances, anything that's due this specific month. For example, if we had insurance due this month, then that would be in the monthly portion. And then I would put any big ticket items that are happening this month. So that's anything big that's going on this month that we need to make sure we account for in our budget. So that includes things like weddings or birthdays or trips and all that. All that would be marked in here as well. And then on the bottom, I made my own little section to do goals. So I just like to mark down a couple of goals or focuses that I have for our budget for the month, and then I can track those down here. The next thing on this side is where I'll put my budget for this month. And so I'll put down the summary of all our paychecks that we expect from the different sources and the amounts, what they actually are and the difference. And then I'll mark down all the bills that are due, the estimated cost and what they actually end up costing. And then I can track the difference. And then down here, I have estimated savings and actual savings. But this, I don't think I'm actually going to do savings. I think I'm going to do the difference, which would be, I'm not putting it into savings, I'm going to be putting it towards debts, but this is where I would summarize those amounts. Next thing I have on here is my income tracker. So I'll be able to track individually by date each check that comes in and hits our account. And then I can put where it's from, write a description and the amount. That way I can see all of them. So this one over here will be just a summary. So like, for example, show my income and then what I'll get for the month. But this will be the broken down by paycheck, so I can see, what we got paid on each different day. And then here will be the summary of my sinking funds, which I'll be able to put the categories, the balances we start with, what we add, what we subtract, and what we end up with. Here I have my weekly check-ins, where I'll do my weekly check-ins every week, and I'll be doing that on my channel through different videos throughout the month. And then I have my debt tracker, which I'll be able to write down all our debts, their beginning balances, the amounts that we paid, interest that occurs, and what we end up at the end of the month. And this is really important because this is our focus right now, is paying off debt. So this was a really important page, and I'm happy that we have it on here so that we can track that stuff. And then my spending tracker here, so we can kind of keep track of our spending. I know we do have it in the calendar view. I mean, I plan on marking all our spending on here, but I'm going to write down the list as well, just so that I can give more of a description of what they are, and then go that way. This is what I'm doing this month, but I don't know if I would keep this going forward, but I'm going to try it out and see what happens. And then the last thing we have is our savings tracker. So this will be where I'll summarize what we have in savings at the end of the month, and what I'll summarize what we have in our retirement at the end of the month. So that's what I'll be tracking on here as well. And so the way I've been doing it is, like I keep saying, budgets have to adjust and grow as you adjust and grow. And depending on where you are on your budget journey, you may have your process down packed, you know exactly what you're doing. Or you might be like us, that we're just kind of working on our budget and trying to really fine tone the way we do it, the way we track it and stuff. So the past couple of months have been a little bit different in how we've been tracking it. And it's just that as we go and as another month hits, we figure out what works best for us, and then we're able to adjust. And like I mentioned, that's the reason I like doing it in the notebook. Yes, it's a little bit more work as far as like, having to draw out and stuff, but I really think it's worth it because it gives us the space and the flexibility to figure out what works best for us. And as we like tune down what works best for us, then later on in the future, I could potentially look into a different notebook or planner or something for our budget. But for right now, I like having the notebook where it's very flexible. So I'm going to go ahead though, and I'm going to go start putting in my bill tracker, because this is the main point of this video. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to write down all the bills that we have, their due dates, and the amounts. So the first bill that we have is our mortgage payment, and then that is due on the 1st. And then I'm just going to leave the amount blank. I'll fill that out later. I just don't want to put it in this video. The next one we have is our pool. So we get our pool serviced every month. If you've been following my videos, you know that we did this because when we were trying to do it on our own, it just wasn't really working. So we hired someone who comes and does it. And honestly, that has been the best thing for us. And our pool has had no issues since then. And it's honestly, I mean, the amount and everything, it's just worth it. And it just makes it easier on our pool. And then we know our pool is getting taken care of, so that we don't have to worry about in the future, like damage occurring or something, because we're not maintaining the chemicals. The next thing I have is the Hulu Disney Disney bundle. This is basically the bundle where we get Hulu and Disney. And honestly, I think you also get ESPN, but if I'm going to be completely honest, we never really use the ESPN. So it's kind of like in the bundle, but we don't really use it. It's just Disney, which is what the kids use the most, and then Hulu, which we use. And then we also have Netflix. And so we have a lot of subscriptions, and we kind of have been thinking about whether we should cancel some, but it's just so hard because, you watch different things on different apps. And I mean, that's kind of, why they do it and why they design it the way they do, right? To kind of suck you in and force you to buy all these apps. And we're back and forth, but I think if we do end up canceling one, I'm thinking that it's going to be Netflix. And the reason is, we like a lot of shows on Netflix. Like right now, I'm watching Vampire Diaries on Netflix, and I love that show. I've watched it a million times, but I'm just such a fan. So that is what I've been watching the most on Netflix. And then we watched a couple of movies recently off of there with the kids. So, they have a really good selection. But I think that if one were to go, it would be that. And only because the Hulu Disney bundle, since it does have Disney on them, like my girls watch Disney more than everything else. And honestly, we enjoy Disney as well. They have all the Marvel on there, and they have Star Wars, and we watch that. Like today, we actually were just watching Solo. My husband hadn't seen it before, so I was watching it again with him so that he can see it, which I'm not complaining because I really enjoy it. But that is on Disney. So I feel like if we were to get rid of one, which we've been back and forth on whether we should, but if we were to get rid of one, it 100% would end up being Netflix, just because since the other one is a bundle and we get multiple, it's just kind of worth it a little bit more. Here I have my utilities, and previously I had been breaking them down. I mean, I had been combining like my water and my gas utilities, and I had floated the idea of adding electricity to that and just making it on one line item. But then I think we kind of want to track what we're spending as far as utilities go a little bit more, because as we're learning and going through, you know, what our house uses, the amounts have been kind of like all over the place. And so we just want to kind of get a better handle on being able to see it. What I actually did, I originally had planned on waiting for this, but I decided to just get it done already, is I signed up for the average billing for our electricity bill. And so what they ended up doing is they ended up getting the past usage for the past year and then kind of averaging it out. And then I think they tacked on a certain portion on it. And I did that. I had been back and forth because I didn't want to. I wanted to wait until we've actually been in this house for a year before we did that. But I think that we've been in this house long enough. I think we're only like 3 months away. I think that we've been in this house long enough that we can do the average billing and it'll be pretty accurate. I mean, right now it has us at about $230 a month to pay, and so that'll cover even the months that are higher. And I think if we end up wasting a little bit more, like right now, you know, we have a snowstorm going on, so, you know, the heater has been on a lot and we've been using a lot of electricity. So I think if, you know, if it changes, I believe what I was reading as I was looking into it further is that it'll just adjust the amount, but that it wouldn't be anything major. Like they'd adjust by a couple bucks here or there. And so overall, I think that that's better, just so we can start, you know, getting a better handle on that bill, because it has fluctuated a lot. I mean, at one point, like in the summer, I think the highest we paid was like $358 or something. And then I think the lowest we've had or that I've seen is maybe like $190. And so it's been fluctuating like a lot. Obviously it depends on the season and what's going on. But I think the worst parts are kind of over. You know, we got through the summer, and that's when we waste the most electricity. And then, you know, right now it's gas that's going to be going crazy. But I think since we already made it through the summer, and that's when obviously the air conditioner is on, we're home more and stuff, so that waste is more. So I think now that we have that, like, we should be okay. I think the amount should be pretty accurate, because in my mind, the months we have left, which we moved into our house last, the end of May, so early June. So I think the last months that we have until then should be simple months. I don't see anything major going on. I mean, the cold months are already hitting, so the other months shouldn't be any different. At least I think. I don't know. I mean, if it adjusts, it'll only be by a couple, like $10, $20 over, I think. So that should be fine. So we went ahead and signed up for it already. So our bill should be at about $230 from here on out. And then if it changes, then I can account for that. This next portion in the debts that the bills that I am tracking end up actually being our debts. And so they're the things that we owe, but I am marking them down because of 2 reasons. One, so that way I can actually know what the due dates are for these debts, and then so I can track what the minimum payment is because since the way I pay them, like, you know, sometimes I'll pay more, sometimes I pay the minimum payment. It's very rare that I pay the minimum payment, but sometimes I pay more. And so there are a couple of these that the minimum payment this month is 0, and I wanted to make sure that I knew that, and I was watching it, because I've been obsessed with Dave Ramsey lately, like watching and listening to, you know, all the tips and tricks he has for, you know, getting out of debt and organizing your budget. And one of the main things that he says, so the first one was, you know, emergency fund of $1,000. You know, we have that already. We put that away. He said everything else should go towards debt. So we kind of did that too. We put a bunch of the extra money that we had into that. We left a little bit of a buffer, which is not what he recommends, but we left some of a buffer in our checking account just for, you know, just to be, you know, on the safe side, I guess is what we figured. But that's what your emergency fund's supposed to be for. But if he heard me say that, he'd probably get mad at me. But we did leave a little bit of buffer, but we have our $1,000 put aside, and then everything else is going to go funnel towards paying off debts. And he recommends the Debt Snowball. So we will be doing the Debt Snowball. So what he says is you pay minimum payments on everything, and then you tackle the lowest one with a vengeance. That's how he says it. So we're going to do that. We have our debts. We're going to put them down lowest to highest. We're going to give minimum payments on everything except the lowest ones, and those we will be putting all our extra money towards to pay off quicker. And I think doing this, I mean, we have a bunch of small ones that I think we'll be able to get rid of this month alone. And then it'll start slowing down once we start hitting some of those bigger ones. For example, like student loans. Our student loans, we both have student loans. So those obviously will take longer, but I think these small ones, we can kind of knock them out. We also went through and we got rid of any card that we had. So one of the things that we did a lot, and it's one thing that, you know, Dave Ramsey gets mad about a lot, is using, you know, credit cards because you get rewards points. And we did that a lot. And honestly, it's still a little bit hard because I'm thinking, well, you know, if we still pay off the amount we have, then we are getting rewards points and stuff. But, you know, he always says every millionaire he's talked to, they've never said, you know, oh yeah, I'm getting all I became a millionaire because, you know, I got travel points and stuff. And so, I was back and forth on it because I was like, well, I mean, if I pay it, but then I'm like, you know what? No, it's all about habits. And that's the one thing he always says, is that it's all about the habit at the end of the day. It's about building the habits to not rely on that kind of stuff and to just rely on your income, because that's your best tool to become a millionaire is your income. So we decided that we're just gonna get rid of our cards, and even the ones that we pay off as we go, because we did have one that we paid off as we went. We are just going to get rid of that one too, and everything is going to be straight out of our checking accounts. So that was one thing we did, which will change things a little bit because, you know, I am used to the fact that we get, you know, some reward points at the end of the month. But I think overall it'll just build better habits for us. So I'm okay with it. It's a little bit of adjustment, but it's not that bad. So then I have Westlake, which is my van, and that one is due on the 18th. So these next two here end up being my van and his motorcycle. So those we have to pay also. And obviously those are debts because we owe them, we have to pay for them. And I think, so one thing we had thought about is because, you know, Dave Ramsey says, like, if you're in a certain amount of debt and, you know, you have these car payments, you know, the cars obviously aren't worth that much because they depreciate in value as basically as soon as you drive them off the lot, that you should sell them. And we've considered it, but when he's quoted what it would be to sell his bike, you know, we would owe a difference because it is upside down. And we just, I don't know, we feel like, you know, if we're gonna go through all the hassle of paying that difference, what's a little bit longer just to end up keeping it. So we're gonna do that. We're not gonna sell it, which is what the way he would recommend getting rid of it. But we think what we make, as long as we control our budget, that we would be fine to still get out of debt. I think the majority of them we can get out of by the end of this year. The things that are going to really drag for us is the student loans. Those are the ones that are going to take longer. Okay, so now that I've put, I guess I can kind of show you a little bit more. Now that I have put, you know, all our bills, the due dates, and the amounts, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark them down in the calendar. So in the calendar, I'm going to go ahead and use, these will be for any bills that are due, like utilities and subscriptions and gym memberships and all that. That'll be with this pink color. And then I was using this brown one for all debts. So all the debts, I'll mark them with this brown one, and then I'll write down that debt on the date that it's due. So I use these two colors because they kind of go pretty well with the kit. You know, there's some brown here and some pink, so I thought they would look cute. And then since brown is the least poppy color in this kit, I figured that should be used for debt. So I'm gonna go ahead and start marking those now. Monthly layout, and I went ahead and I put in all our bills, which are those in pink, and all our debt due dates, which are those in brown. And so that way, as I'm going through and as paychecks are coming in and as I'm scheduling payments, I can look back and see what's going to be due at that time, and I can make sure that I'm paying those things off. And it's really important to note things like the 18th. I have a lot that's due on the 18th, so I want to make sure that in the months prior I'm planning ahead for this, so I don't come by with my check on the 18th and then trying to hurry up and pay everything with that one paycheck, because I do get paid weekly. My husband gets paid bi-weekly, so I believe the 18th actually is a date that only I get paid. So if I don't plan properly, like making sure that on the 11th when we both get paid, that I use a lot of that income to pay these things off, I'll be stuck on the 18th with just my paycheck alone, and then we might end up, you know, we would potentially end up falling late on these if I didn't plan for them ahead. So weeks like this second week, we don't have a lot due that week or right after before the next paycheck. So this is a really good opportunity to make sure we pay these things ahead of time, so by the time the due date comes, we don't fall behind. So there's my monthly layout. Like I mentioned, I think it looks really cute. I've really been enjoying having the graph notebooks for my monthly views and being able to put on each line, you know, with my dot pens and then whatever's due. This view has been very beneficial for me. And so I really enjoy looking at it and being able to track my bills that way. That's all I'm going to do for this video. You know, if you follow on the next videos, you can see as I go forward, the next video will end up being going over my bluff and my actual broken down budget. So tune into that video so that way you guys can see as I continue going through our budget for this month. But overall, this is how I'm setting up my budget planner, and this is how we plan to track each payment we have due for this month. So that way, as we're going through our budget and planning, we have it all at our fingertips. Thank you guys for joining. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit subscribe, and you can also head on over to my Etsy shop where you can see weekly kits that I have posted, that I have up for sale. I already posted April's weekly kits, so you can take a look at that. And if you are enjoying my budgeting as I'm fine-tuning what we actually want our layout to be in the future, I plan to also put budget kits on there as well so they can match the weekly. So I'll keep you guys updated on that, but that's just another thing to remember that will be coming to my shop in the future. Thank you guys for tuning in, and until next time, bye guys.